Did you ever play organized ball in your life?
I just got back in the game.
What does that mean?
I used to play in high school.
Excuse me?
I used to play in high school.
Reddy used to play in high school. That's nice. Scotty Carson signs him up. The judge okays the deal. Ain't talked to me yet. I got that in my deal for as long as I live. They gotta talk to me.
We got a contract.
I want to see it. Oh, come on, Hickle! $500 they give this guy to play with us. This ain't legal.
Is Carson your chief scout?
Yeah, so what if
He said he had the authority to sign me.
Yeah, well, he don't have.
Let me talk to you just a minute. He has, Pop. You said so yourself if you ever found anybody decent.
I know, Red, but look at this guy. We don't need no middle-aged rookies.
Well, we sure need somebody.
Hey, fella. All right, you come at a bad time. Like Red says, Scotty Carson's seen something in you. Go find Dr. Dizzy and suit up.
Hello and welcome to Book versus Movie. This is a podcast where we read books that have been adapted into movies, and then we try to decide which we like better, the book or the movie. I am Margot P. of coloniabook.com, and this is my good friend and co-host, Margot D. of Brooklyn Fitchick.
Hi, everyone.
It is springtime. Very excited for spring, we were just saying. Even with its accompanying allergies, it's so nice. I've been in the garden, such as it is, pruning and whatnot. And and also baseball. My husband is a fantasy baseball person, so there's been a bit of baseball talk about the house. And we love a baseball movie, although I'm not a sports follower so much. I mean, I'll watch the World Series. I get the baseball thing. I do. But we've done a couple baseball movies in the past. We were just saying, we did Field of Dreams. Mm-hmm. Great movie. Fun book. Moneyball. Very dry book.
Yes. Great
movie. Very, very, very dry stuff. Just sometimes just save yourself the trouble, we would say. Today is a really interesting one because people have very strong feelings about this movie. I haven't heard anybody have very strong feelings about the book, but we'll get into all of that in just a moment. Next month is May. In May, we're going to do a brand new thing. We're going to do mysteries in May. We have musicals in March. We have spooky movies in October. We do holiday movies, like, holiday season. And this is the first time ever in our 10 years of doing this podcast, we're going to be doing mysteries in May. And we need your suggestions because we try to crank out a brand new episode every week. I think for mysteries in May, we're going to have to keep it to books. I don't think there's a mystery that's not a book.
Maybe a short story. Maybe somebody could think of that. Yeah, or novella.
Yeah, but here are the rules. The source material has to be something we can get ourselves pretty easily, maybe from the library or something. And the film has to be something that's available on a major streaming platform. So everybody can see it without too much trouble. We don't have to find the last Blockbuster video in the United States. And but that's basically it. So if you have suggestions for Mysteries in May or any other movies that you think we might want to consider that's been adapted from a literary source, there's a few places where you can make those suggestions, be there the listeners of this podcast, and interact with us on the internet.
We have a basic Facebook page if you're into Facebook. Be sure to like it, but we're much more interactive in our Facebook group. So you type in Book vs. Movie Podcast Group and ask to join. It is a private group, and we just talk about books and movies and classic films, some pop culture, that kind of thing. And people leave great suggestions there, and we really appreciate that. You can also leave us on Threads, Instagram, and Twitter. Those places you type out Book versus M Movie and send us your suggestions there. Or we have an old-timey email, Book versus Movie Podcast, spelled it out, at gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, email us your address and we will drop them in the mail for you.
And if you really enjoy the show and would like to help keep us in books and movies, you can also support us on Patreon.
We've been doing the show for 10 years, so we've decided everything from like 2 years and then previous to that, we're going to put it on our Facebook, our Patreon wall. We have Moneyball there and Field of Dreams, by the way, if you're interested. We've also put up their Love Story, Being There, Benjamin Button's Arrival, The Man Who Fell to Earth. Those are what recent ones that we put on our Patreon wall. We have a couple of very affordable options, and it just helps keep us in books and movies. And we totally appreciate all of you that support us there. We really, really do. Y'all are great. And if you're looking for another way you want to support us, if you can leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be amazing. It just helps us find our people. Or just tell a friend about the show.
Just say, hey, you like podcasts, you like books, or you like movies, or you like both? I got a recommendation.
Yeah.
These two chicks. Yeah, they're both named Margot. Imagine that. Okay. Oh, my goodness. So today we're going to be... Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, because all of a sudden your picture went out. Hold on. I'm just going to wait a second. Okay, here we go. So today we're going to be talking about The Natural. I have a lot of men in my life, boomer age men, who love this movie. I remember them talking about it. Oh, like, you know what movie you should go see? The Natural. And I didn't remember, although I certainly was around and going to the movies during this time. I wouldn't have gone to see The Natural, because I was a kid. Like, I don't want to go see a guy's baseball movie.
I was in middle school. I'm not going to go see The Natural.
Nah. No. But that was such a huge year for movies. I have no idea. Purple Rain.
That's the first thing I thought of was Purple Rain. What else happened? I don't care. It was Purple Rain.
Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh, that movie's messed up.
Seriously.
Yeah. But it was a big year.
It's a humongous year for movies. I did not realize. But so this is a movie that really kind of held its own in a very, very big movie year. It was very popular, as I recall. As I say, I remember it's a movie that men talked about a lot. In my life, anyway. But let's talk about our author. This is a debut novel from one of America's most acclaimed authors, Bernard Malamud.
He was born April 26th. Oh, very recent. Anyway, 1914.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Brooklyn, New York. And he also wrote The Fixer, which Margot and I were talking about off the air. I've never seen that, but it's a book that won the National Book Award and the Pulitzer Prize. He he grew up very poor in a Russian Jewish family. He earned all these degrees as he went along. He was a teacher. He was just a very interesting man. And he lived to be 71. I'm curious. By the way, he taught at Columbia and all these, he was very accomplished. He wrote novels and short stories. And I was also wondering, he lived till 1986. I wonder if he saw the movie and what he thought of it. And I couldn't.
He did. I did find because I
good.
wondered the same thing. By the way, y'all, if you've never seen The Fixer, it is a great movie.
We should put it on our
highly
list.
recommend. Yeah, we definitely should put it on our list. I'm surprised we haven't done it already. But this is his debut novel. He, again, Pulitzer Prize winning, National Book Award winning. There's a Penn Award named for him. Super, super highly respected. A lot of American writers cite him as an influence. But this book, The Natural, is his debut novel. And it's good. It's good. It's good writing. But I was telling Margot, I think I listened to the first half as an audiobook, and then I read the first half in a physical book. I ordered the paperback, and I read the rest in the paperback form. And also, I should say that the first half, as I listened to it as an audiobook, I was also in the dentist chair. So it seemed even more like there's elements of it where you kind of wonder whether it's I mean, or I did anyway. I was like, is this really happening? Or is this
Yeah.
like partly
Or a
fantasy?
dream?
Is it a dream? I wasn't sure, but I don't think it is. I think it's not. So, so we'll just give you kind of the broad strokes, and say like, it is very different from the movie. It's very, very different from the movie. There's just, well, we'll get to the movie. Spoiler alert, y'all. I know people love this movie. I really hated this movie. I'm just going to step out on the limb. I'll be the one and say, I was like, what is this thing? Anyway, here are the broad strokes of the book. So when we meet Roy, he's 19 years old. He is on a train with his. They say he's his manager, but they also have some kind of a relationship. Roy and this guy Sam, who's an older alcoholic, used to be ball player, and now he's managing this young phenom, Roy Hobbs, and they're on a train and they're going towards Chicago for a tryout for a ball team, and on the train is a very famous sports writer named Max. What's your last name?
Mercy.
Mercy, thank you. Max Mercy. And the symbolism. And and a ball player who's based on Babe Ruth, whose nickname is the Whammer, as in like whamming baseballs. And everybody on the train is like, woo, the Whammer's on the train. The Whammer's on the train. And the Whammer and Max Mercy, the sports writer, are traveling together, and they're having a conversation about a recent, what seems to be a serial killer. There's somebody who is going around murdering very, very elite athletes in various sports.
Yes.
And the Whammer is the elite athlete of baseball. And so Max Mercy's like, are you worried about like something might happen? Like, you sure you want to be out on this train with all these people? And he's like, nah. And Sam, the manager, goes up to Max, recognizes Max Mercy. He's like, hey, I got a kid. You got to watch, you look out for this. My client, I'm taking him out to try out. You got to see this kid. And Max Mercy's like, yeah. Like, I'm here
Heard
with the
it a
Whammer.
million times. Yeah,
a million times. Thanks, but no thanks. And then there's also a mysterious woman on the train who's flirting with the Whammer, and they do as you do on a long train trip. They stop. They have like a half-hour stop to stretch your legs, right? And there happens to be a carnival at the stop, so everybody gets off the train. They go to the little carnival. The Whammer's, in the batting cages, and he's like knocking them all over the place. And Roy Hobbs, the natural, the kid, he's throwing balls at milk bottles and he's knocking them over and he's winning all the prizes. And eventually the two get wind of each other, and people place bets like, can this kid strike out the Whammer? And he does.
Spoiler.
And spoiler, he does. He's the natural.
Because he is the natural. We should say, by the way, this was written in 1952, so it's taking place, so it's mid-century America. So there's I think it starts in the 30s and it goes up to the 50s.
I think that's right, yeah.
So
then they get back on the train, they go to Chicago, and the mysterious woman that was flirting with the Whammer, calls Roy at his hotel. I mean, he doesn't know her, right?
No.
He's seen her on the train, but they don't know each other at all. She calls him up and she's like, hey, it's me, that lady from the train. Remember me and my mysterious hat box? I'm here in the hotel and I need your help. I need you to come to my room and I need some help with something. And Roy's a dumb kid. So he goes and she shoots him. Also, Sam, the manager, dies, right?
I think so. I
forget how he dies. It's very sad. He loses the manager. He gets shot. He's got everything in front of him, and his manager dies, and he gets shot in the belly by this wackadoo serial killer lady.
Right, because it was going to be the Whammer, but then he strikes out the Whammer, so then he's now the best player.
Like,
so she's like, ooh.
I got to get the best.
This is based on a true story that happened. So I was
Yes.
looking this up, and we might do it on What a Creep because it's such an interesting story. But there's this
It
woman,
was, right?
right? I mean, it's a ball player who has a fan, and she's only 16, and she develops an obsession with him, follows him to Chicago, does the same thing. She shoots him. The poor guy is injured. He comes back a year later, but she goes into a mental institution. He plays for a couple years after that, and then he has sort of PTSD because who wouldn't after that? And it's just it's just based on, like I said, it's based on a true story. So
Yes.
these people are very famous, that we should say.
True, and I think people, but certainly baseball people, would have known that, right? The original ball player's name is Eddie Stephen Waitkus. He played for the Philadelphia Phillies. But yeah, like Margot said, after this horrible thing happens to him, very much like in this book, where he's a young kid, a lot of promise, talented ball player, and this awful thing happens to him, and it sidelines him for a chunk. But then he comes back later. He actually has quite a long career.
Yeah, he does well. I think he dies in his 50s, and I forget what it is. But it was like the PTSD from that. He had,
Sure.
And of course, like I said, of course that would happen.
Like you would.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like one would.
So then he's obviously he can't go do his tryout. His manager is gone. So then it's 16 years later. I don't know why 16 and not 15, but okay, that's fine. 16 years later, we pick up with Roy again, and we don't really know where he's been or what he did exactly. He was sort of playing in teams around, like, small teams here and there, lower echelon circuits. But 16 years later, so he's now like 35, right? And he shows up, he's been hired by a professional ball team called the New York Knights, which does not exist. But they're this loser team. They got nothing going on. And the owner hires him, and we learn over time that there's two owners. One is the judge, and he's very bad, and the other is the guy who's actually the manager of the team. He's the one that's like down in the dugout with the players, and his name is Pop. And the judge wants Pop's interest in the team, and so the judge is going around hiring bad players so that the team will lose and lose and lose, and the judge can then take Pop's interest in the team.
Well, this is also the plot for Major League. It's also a plot for a lot of movies that we get in the future, sports movies, like, we're trying to lose, you're screwing this up for us. Or The Producers is a good example of
Yes. And it's also based on the Black Sox scandal that happened, and we'll get to that later. So, and all I'm saying is, like, people who like love baseball reading this novel, there would have been so many things that they're like, oh, that's just like the such and such, and oh, that's like that character that I know, that that ball player from the 1930s. So, but then but what the judge doesn't know when he thinks he's hiring a middle-aged, washed-up ball player, is that what he's actually done is hire the natural,
right?
And so. Turns out he's amazing. He knocks the cover off the ball, and so there's a lot of baseball. There's a lot of baseball scenes of baseball, and if you like reading scenes of baseball, you will very much enjoy The Natural. There's a lot of them. It goes on a lot.
It does.
It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. It's not the worst baseball.
No, it's
story I've read.
It's not even, baseball is just like the sport he plays, but
yeah,
what we get with the Roy Hobbs in this story is kind of an egomaniac. He's not a great person.
Yeah,
he's
not
tremendously flawed, you could say, but he's someone who has an obsession with Memo, who's with the judge.
Yes, who's Pop's niece,
right?
But she's with the
Bump.
No, she's with the gambler guy. And Bump,
who's also a player who gives him a hard time. And
Right.
so but he has an obsession with her. Like, she has
He's
red
really
hair.
obsessed with her.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and then there's a scene where she thinks she's going to Bump's room, but she goes to his room and has sex with him. It's like, yeah, not very odd. But anyway, so he has this obsession with her, and then there's times where she just kind of blows him off, and he's like so distraught, like, oh my God. He's also always eating. Like, there's a lot of food and drinking with him.
It's true. That's very true.
Like a Brad Pitt movie. Like, he's just
I hadn't
always
quite noticed that.
noshing. Yeah. And so he then, like, so their relationship goes back and forth, and then he meets a nice lady in Chicago named Iris, and she's like his age, never been married. He's never been married.
And he's never met her before.
Never
Let's
met
just
her.
say. He's never met her before. He sees her up in the stands one day, and he's like, "Whoa!"
And
who's
she
that?
inspires him. He's having a losing streak, and then because they're also saying, like, Memo's a succubus, like she'll take your power away, so don't get too close to her. But this Iris is like the beautiful, like a sweet lady, and he gets to know her, and they make love by the shore of Michigan Lake, and then she says, "Look, I know I'm only 33, but just so you don't get too freaked out, you should know something. I had a kid when I was very young, and now my kids just had a kid. So I'm technically a grandmother." And he's
like, "What?"
Disgusted. Like, instantly. Ew.
Gross.
Grody. You need to get out of here. You need to go.
He instantly kicks her to the curb.
Just awful. He's not a good person. And also, we should say, like, Bump dies by, like, hitting his head in the wall. There's a lot of dying that happens in this movie.
There's a lot of death. Yeah.
There's also a point where, I'm going forward, but Iris comes back and she's in the stands, and he hits a foul ball, and he's trying to hit a little person, and it bounces off of him and hits her, and then it's mortally wounded. Is she killed by it? But she tells somebody, "That's my boyfriend, and I'm pregnant, and I'm here." So
she's pregnant with his child, but before that, even there's a point where. So he has just totally cut her off. He's still chasing Memo, like, over and over again. And she writes him a note, and he's like, "Oh, Iris." He's reading the note, and he's like, "Oh yeah, she was not. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, she's the one who was a grandmother. Ugh." Like, all over again.
It's just like he's so PO'd about that. Like, he can't.
He's so mad about it.
He's hugely mad about it. Like I said, obsessed with Memo. So the judge tries to bribe him, and this is a big deal. And he's thinking, the injury that he's recovered from, it's starting to come up again. Like, when they remove the silver bullet,
it's a major thing.
Yeah, and we should say maybe it's like it's fantasy. This movie, I mean, it's just magical realism. I don't know, because there's just, like, they say things and you don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah, the book definitely has magical, realistic. It's hard not to think about it that way. I don't know if it was the intention or not, but it does sort of, like, the whole thing about the silver bullet and all of that. And so they bribe him. Again, it's very much like the Black Sox scandal. They bribe him to throw the game, and he's like, "I don't roll that way. Not about the bribery, but, like, I don't lose."
Right. That's what he does it.
Yeah, I like money, but I don't lose.
Right.
And so he and then there's the whole thing about his bat and everything. So anyway, P.S. like, he goes and he plays. He always plays to win. He never does not play to win. He doesn't try to throw the game. He does his best, even though he breaks his bat. But the thing is, and this is only in the book. Even though he didn't accept the bribe, they made it look like he did.
Mm-hmm.
So the judge and the gambling guy, and they conspire with Max Mercy, the sports writer. And so when the book ends, they are just starting to leak, like, "Oh, Hobbs took a bribe to throw the game," and they are just starting their campaign to take him down. And so when the book ends, you, the reader, you don't really know how it's going to go. And
No, he's regretting a lot of things.
there's a lot of regrets.
Lots
at
of
the end,
regrets,
yeah.
but yeah, he's not the hero. Like in the end, it's his
not at
ego
all.
that brings him down, and it brings him down several times. He doesn't learn his lesson right away, so he's struggling. He realizes because they're also releasing the story how he was shot and how did he know this woman, and it makes it all sound really salacious. And he's just sitting there like, what did I do it for? Like what was it all worth? I had this gift, and now, he's going to be expelled, and they're going to remove his records because that's what happens.
Yeah.
Like Shoeless Joe and other people from the Black Sox scandal, they were all erased from the records. So, yes, it's a morality tale. It's about this man's ego being out of control, but it's also this fantasy story, and women, great women monsters. It's like very
Yeah, exactly. Are you in a slump? Have you tried women?
relationships, because they are never complicated, are they? I mean, yeah, but that's the story. It's weird. I went back and forth with it.
Me too.
Sometimes I enjoyed it. Sometimes I'm like, what is going on here? There's a thing where he gets in a fight and he beats up a bunch of people and
yeah, but in terms of just like the quality of the writing, it's good writing.
Oh yeah.
I really like the way that the end is written. I think is very good. I like the end and I like the beginning.
It's just everything in between.
It's all the stuff in between where it like goes. It goes a lot of places, and but I think I did enjoy it. I have to say, on the whole, I thought it was good. But you're right. It's not really about baseball. Like a lot of the baseball things, a lot of the baseball movies, of course, including this one, even though like it's one of the things that is a departure from the book, use the baseball as a metaphor, an allegory about being a man in the United States. And this isn't really that. Like you're saying, like it's just a sport that he plays. It could have been any sport.
Right.
Or it could have been like some other thing. It could have been business. It could have been, he could have been a natural at a number of things. But he's certainly not a hero, and he's not somebody who like there's that moment in the movie. Oh my gosh, you guys. There's that moment in the movie where Robert Redford's like, I love baseball so much. Like it's not this, like he loves doing winning. He loves winning, and he's good. He can do this one really good thing and win pretty much every single time he wants to. And it's not really exactly about like the love of the game per se. So, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the book.
So shall we play the trailer for this movie?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Barry Levinson is our director. Robert Towne and Phil Dusenberry wrote the screenplay. Okay.
Yes. And I would say before you play the trailer that I think the heaviest hitter in the whole picture is Randy Newman with his soundtrack, the score. I cannot with his score.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Let's begin with the cast. Let's just start there, and then we'll move on along. So, Robert Redford plays 19 and then 34.
Okay, listen.
I was...
You guys, they're asking a lot. Like, really a lot. And I don't understand. Like, why didn't they just have him play himself at 10? Like,
Right.
It's really that ridiculous. So in the movie, so just forget everything you just heard us say about the book and the story, because just forget
The names
all of it.
are the same, but the stories...
It's that different. So the movie opens, we have this young boy who's like, he's like 12, right? And he's got a dad. He loves his dad. Like, all of a sudden there's a dad. He loves his dad. And they play catch, and the dad's like, "You're a natural." I mean, it's like 6 times in this movie, people are like, "He's a natural." Have you seen him?
Got to justify the title.
Natural.
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
And I think in the book he didn't have a father, or the father was abusive or something. Like they were not
something
close.
like that. No, it was not like they were
Magical
not playing
dad.
catch out by the barn with the magical dad and the lightning. There was the thing about the tree with being, and the kid makes his own bat, but we get this whole backstory of Roy is playing catch with his magical dad, and there's this beautiful little girl there named Iris. And Iris lives next door, and she loves Roy, and she's watching Roy play catch with his dad, and that's the first glimpse that we see. And then the father dies, and the boy makes a bat out of the tree that the father has died under. Like, none of this is in the book. It's so schlocky. And then the whole time you've got Randy Newman's score, like, and then we see, so then that's the first, like, section of the movie. And then we meet Roy again, and he's had a really rough 7 years. You know, now he's 19. He's had a lot of living in those 7 years, because
he has sunspots.
He's being played by 47-year-old Robert Redford.
I mean, I was like, and I had to stop for a second. Then I looked at it, and I'm like, they're not asking us to think he's 19.
They are.
Oh,
they are. They are.
They
are,
could
though.
not even hire someone to play him. I mean,
I don't understand. It's not like a long part of the movie where he's supposed to be 19,
right?
But it's enough of the movie that it's like, what is going on here? Like, how?
Because people keep calling him kid. Come here,
keep
kid.
calling him kid, and he's like, the man is 47 years old, and he's like, "Hey, mister,
I'm really good at baseball. I got any advice for me?" What? And Barbara Hershey. I normally love Barbara Hershey, but.
So he's playing, oh gosh, okay, you guys. Okay, so he's playing 19 years old. I don't know why we couldn't find an attractive young man, dye his hair strawberry blonde, and let him be Robert. It would have been so much more believable. The whole thing would have been such a better movie. And then we see Robert Redford, and okay, 47 playing 33 is fine, because he had a hard, 16 years in there, right? But 47 playing 19. And so he's on the train with the sports guy, the Max Mercy, who's played by Robert Duvall, who's great. He's great.
He's
great.
fantastic.
Robert Duvall is there with a guy who's playing the Whammer, who is also great.
Joe Don Baker.
He's really good.
Yeah.
And he's playing like a Babe Ruth character. He's really selling it. I really believe him. But then he's like, "Hey, kid," to Robert Redford. They are the same age. Those two men are the same age.
just like, is this Benjamin Buttons? Like, I don't understand.
What am I watching?
What is going on here? Because people cry talking about this movie, and I had giggles because I'm just like, they're not.
It's absurd.
It is absurd. It's and obviously they don't have the CGI stuff like we have nowadays. So with like The Irishman, they make Al Pacino look,
True. Yeah. Okay.
But that's also a decision. Like, I'm going to say it was Redford that was like, oh, I could play.
I mean, he could easily have said no, right?
Yes.
If he had insisted no, they would have gotten somebody.
Or they could have played,
then the whole.
I'm sorry to interrupt. They could have gotten they could have gotten like a teenage, like a 16-year-old.
Oh.
You know what I mean? So
Easily.
really play him young. Like, but so then he seems more naive, and then
The whole thing works so much better then. But we have to endure this whole segment of the movie where you're asking us to believe that he's like, golly gee shucks. I mean, really?
And then he also, by the way, is engaged to Iris. He leaves. He's 19.
So she's his girl.
She's his girl. He's like, okay, I'll marry you when I get back. He gets on the train. He looks out the window and he sees this woman, Harriet Burt, and he's like, huh? Like, because women are his poison, by the way, in the original story.
Yes.
So I was like,
Yes.
he's going to be a jerk.
Yeah,
but then
I thought that too.
Yeah,
but no, because he can't, because he's Robert Redford,
right?
And so he when he's 19, he has this like love scene with
Barbara Hershey,
with Glenn Close, with his girl, who he's sweet on and wants to marry. And they have this scene where they're like saying goodbye because he's going to go off to try out for the majors. And he's supposed to be 19, and they're in the darkest of barns.
There's so much, the lights out. I mean, the darkness is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this movie. It's very like in the shadows. So that we don't know. They could have just, like I said, hired kids and have him dub the voice if he wanted to. Just right. It just would make so much more sense. And I'm not giggling when I start, but he's. Barbara Hershey sees him on the train, and she's, ooh, look at that. That kid's going to be the natural. It's very well done. The whole thing where he strikes him out.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I agree.
Really good. But I also don't see a 19-year-old doing that.
I do not.
Track one. Wait a minute. You okay, Sam?
It's all right, Roy. This damn glove.
Max, how the hell are you gonna call him from way back there?
He looks wild to me.
Them your knees are here shaking, Max?
Mind your business, Red Nose, and play ball.
Throw it in here, Greenhorn.
All right, do it again, Roy. Come on, boy. Do it again.
Strike two.
I'm just throwing spitballs.
Now, pig's poop. That ball's as dry as your granddaddy's scalp.
Well, you better not be trying any funny business out there. Rump pot.
Hey, watch your mouth, mister.
Forget
Prove it in here, son.
Okay, this one's it, Whammer. This is it.
Yeah,
Don't let me down.
Don't let up. One more, boy.
Let's go.
Come on, Roy. High five, baby. Punch him out now.
Strike three. You're out.
I'm not wowed by the David and Goliath of it all. It's not. It's like, why is Robert Redford throwing balls at this poor man who's the same age as he is? What are we doing?
They're going to ruin their shoulders. They're going to hurt themselves. So that's what this movie's asking of us.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So when Barbara Hershey calls him to the hotel room, it is sort of just silly. Like, he's like, why did you call me here? Like,
it's so not believable that he's this naive kid. Like, you just can't be. You can't be. I mean,
it's jarring. So she shoots him. He winds up, in the hospital, and his career's over for 16 years. Then we meet Redford, who's playing 34, 35. But once again, as you made a very good point, if he's been injured this whole time and been through some stuff, it's gonna wear him out.
That's fine.
Which
at
I
that
get.
Point, that is totally fine. If we had just picked up with him, and then at that point, Ray Hobbs walks into frame, and it's Robert Redford, and now I'm wowed.
Yes.
Right? Instead of like, okay, now what is he supposed to be? But
they don't do anything different. He's the same.
He looks exactly the
same. Like the part in the hair, like everything is.
It is not different at all.
Right.
He has a different jacket. That is all.
We are Redford fans, by the way. We
love him.
We've talked.
We love him.
Yes, but this was like we know, and this is once again we understand it's a beloved movie.
I know. I'm sorry, y'all, but come on.
Goofy. And also once again we get Wilford Brimley and Richard Farnsworth,
who is great.
They're great.
Who are great. I loved them both. I thought they were wonderful. I really did.
Yeah. So he shows up and says, "I got this contract," and as you said, like they're the bottom of the heap. So, but Wilford Brimley puts him on the bench for a while. And then he gets his chance and he comes out with Wonderboy and whacks that ball out of the park. And everybody's like, oh, my God, we have a natural here.
Try this one, Grandpa.
Roy! Come here. Let me see that bat.
Not bad, kid.
Where'd you get this?
I made it myself from a tree near home.
Wonderboy. You put that on there? What does it mean?
I made it a long time ago when I was a kid. I wanted it to be a very special bat.
How about this lightning bolt?
The tree that I made it from was split open by lightning.
I don't figure this. All those years and you never played organized baseball?
Well, I sort of got sidetracked.
Red, measure that, weigh it. If it comes up to specifications, we'll let you use it. Now go on out there and shag some fun.
Better late than
And Michael,
wow, he's a natural.
Michael. So Michael Madsen plays Bump, and then he's
also very good.
He's good. I mean, he also just gives him a hard time. I mean, people call him Grandpa and stuff, and they give him a hard time. But eventually, he becomes a star. And then we meet. I think Darren McGavin is great as Gus Sands.
He's really, really good in this.
Yeah, and then
he is. And I think the judge, and it's just for perspective, the man who plays the judge,
Robert Prosky.
Yes, who's supposed to be like, and he talks to Robert Redford like, "Listen, kid." He's like 4 years older than Robert Redford.
And an also very dark room. And that's where they make it very clear in the movie. Like
they would have been in high school together.
But he also has no lights on in his office. No. So that whole thing is just... It's silly. Then we have Kim Basinger, who's...
I mean, they're all doing a good job.
Yeah,
I'm not.
It's the script is not. I don't think it's
the dialogue is horrible.
The way that's not how women talk. It's very.
It's not how anybody talks.
Yeah.
I just love baseball.
There's one thing Barbara Hershey says. Oh, a contest with skill. I'm like, what? That was the reading that made it. I don't know how you make that better.
The dad, you've got a gift, son.
I know. Look, we talked about Field of Dreams, which is like a wacky movie, but it's totally
but it's good.
grounded in reality. Like you really care about these people. You believe them. You believe what they're going through. It's yeah. With this, I don't.
I don't buy any chemistry between Robert Redford and Kim Basinger for some reason. He seems like not interested in her at all, and yet they're in this relationship, and he's in a slump because she's like a succubus somehow, but he doesn't seem to care about her at all.
No, and in the book, he's obsessed with her. Like, seriously.
Yeah, he's like truly like scary obsessed with this woman.
Right. She's the be-all, end-all. And it's Kim Basinger. She's gorgeous. I mean, it makes...
Beautiful.
It makes sense. So it's an on again, off again for them, but when he does start sleeping with her, his Wonderboy goes down, but then he sees a woman in white in the crowd, and this is like some symbolism. Like I never saw this movie, but I always knew this was like a big deal to people that love this movie. It's like Glenn Close, and I'm like, she just stands.
Hobbs just can't get himself on track. He's 0 for 2 today. Stepping up right now against Duvall. Third base, 3-3. Right one. Not happy. Here comes the pitch again. Swings and strikes. He just can't get himself set. He just hasn't had that concentration that he should. Stretching hard, trying to get.
With a hat.
Literally, she stands up in a hat.
And Glenn Close can act, y'all. Like, she can do everything.
That's the thing. I'm watching this movie. I'm like, y'all had Glenn Close. This is what you just made her stand up in a hat. You make her go like, poor Glenn Close. Her whole thing, like, the moment you meet her, and you know she's Iris because you see her through the movie. We know that it's Iris because we met her when she was supposedly 19, and it's Glenn Close. and they slept together, and so like she's got a kid. That's his son. Like we knew this with an hour and a half left of this movie. We know that she's got his son, and there she is, and every time she sees him, they have several encounters after the standing up in the hat thing. She's like, Roy, there's something I have to tell you, basically. And he's like, what is it, Iris? And then she says, I've got to go. And that's like all her dialogue. Roy, my son, I've got to go.
Then he goes to her house and she's like, would you like some coffee? He's like, well, I don't want trouble. Well, I can brew it. That's no trouble at all. goes, oh, okay. He goes, you know what? Do you have iced tea? And she goes, no, but I can brew that for you. He goes, oh, you'd have to brew it? I mean, I'm not kidding you. This is the conversation.
This is literally the dialogue, y'all.
Robert Town. This is what we have. And that's when she says he has a son and he has a father. The father's in New York. And he's like, oh.
Literally like that. Pause. His father, my son who loves baseball, can't get enough of it. His dad is in New York.
So, not to freak y'all out, but that's his son.
What?
What? That's his son. So he's like, he doesn't figure this out until, but I don't know. We're baseball. There's like going, being gambling, and there's like Kim Basinger poisons him. He's in a hospital. I mean, there's just all these ludicrous things happen. And at the end, they have to play the big game, and it's he strikes out. He strikes out again, and Glenn Close is going up to cops in the stands. I'm like, hi, I'm his girlfriend.
You have to give him this note.
And they're like, get out of here. We're busy. But she brings their son, to that. And then he finally notices her and he sees her.
Yeah.
And that's when, and it's a gorgeous shot. I mean, when he hits the ball.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful shot.
I get that.
Mr. Zoe Deschanel's dad, great job.
Oh,
He's
that's
doing a
him?
great job. Uh-huh.
Let's play ball.
Hobbs setting himself. Rose looking in.
The other thing, the other like, I don't know if we want to call it a plot hole.
Caleb Deschanel. I just saw this.
Yeah,
you're right.
The other thing is in the part of the story where the gambling guy and the judge who are in cahoots are trying to bribe Robert Redford to throw the series or to not show up or just don't go, just don't play, or if you do play, lose, and they threaten him with telling everybody that he got shot by a serial killer, like that's some kind of a bad thing against him. Also, we've established on the train in the very beginning of the movie that this was something that was going around in the newspapers. People knew that there was a serial killer lady going around shooting sports players, and they obviously knew that was her. So what's the big scandal? Like, he was shot. He's a victim here. He was shot by a serial killer. Like, and he's like, oh, I can't let anybody find out. And they're like, wouldn't it be terrible if people knew that you were the victim of a crime?
Well, like, Roy just calls Sports Illustrated or, whatever. You get the exclusive. This is what happened. Everybody sees and hears about it. Done.
Simple.
It's done. It's like, there were police that were there. I mean, it's pretty clear cut. He didn't do anything wrong.
No.
So,
and they were looking for this woman What is going on? Like, why is that the thing you're threatening him with?
But that's supposed to be, well, we've been bribing you and we've been offering to bribe you. So we're going to take this story and that story and we're going to mix them all together in a blender. And I'm like, you know,
do what we say, or we'll tell people that somebody broke into your house.
Dude, I swear to you, go to the press office, pick one person. I'll give you the story. Yeah. They will send it everywhere. Like, it's just absurd. He finds out that he has a son.
Right before he's about to go to bed.
And he's also like, the wound is opening up again. So the doctors say to him, you really shouldn't be playing, or this is your last season. No more. This is not good for you. But yeah, he finds out at the very end, like that's his son there. They win the game. Pop still has his team. You know, Kim Basinger's stuck with these losers, and it's he plays catch with his son.
He plays catch with his son with Iris looking on.
Just serenely.
At the end. Yeah. Without actually saying anything, because she doesn't get to talk.
You have Glenn Close.
Glenn Close.
Someone
who's stress enough.
Broadway star. You know, she was in.
She can sing.
She can sing. What was the movie she did with Kevin Kline and all those people about the baby boomers that get back together?
Oh, The Big Chill.
The Big Chill. She can act. She can like do anything. Like and
all she does is smile and say, "My son," and then I gotta go.
Would you like some coffee? I can brew some coffee. That's no trouble at all. Is this the Stepford Wives again? Like, it's
this is the love of your life.
Exactly.
That you're seeing for the first time in 16 years, the father of your child. I could brew you some coffee.
And it's also silly, like nobody recognizes each other. And I'm like, Redford looks exactly the same.
They both look exactly the same. We've established that Roy Hobbs looks the same at 35 as he did at 19.
Same with Iris. Like, just get two young actors to do those scenes. You will still get all the credit because you're the big stars.
The movie would have been so much better.
Yeah.
As always, or as often the case, I should say. Because I went back to, we were saying, like, it was a big year for movies, 1984, a big year for movies. So I went back and read Roger Ebert's review of The Natural. I adore Roger Ebert. I love his writing. I think he's fantastic. I almost always agree with Roger Ebert. And I'm just going to read you the first brief paragraph of Roger Ebert's review of The Natural, 1984. First, he opens with this. Why didn't they make a baseball picture? Why did The Natural have to be turned into idolatry on behalf of Robert Redford? Why did a perfectly good story filled with interesting people have to be made into a man's ascension into the godlike, especially when no effort is made to give that ascension meaning? And were the most important people in this God-man's life kept mostly off screen so they wouldn't upstage him?
Yeah.
Yeah. These are the questions.
Those are good questions. Yeah.
What were we doing here? And Robert Redford gets up to bat and he strikes, like Margos said, and he gets up to bat again and he strikes. And then he gets up to bat the third time and the music goes, do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Do you not know how to feel? We will make you know how to feel when you're...
I'm like, I wonder if he's going to hit the ball this time. Do-do-do-do-do. Ugh.
It's so corny too.
It really is.
The ball boy that's like a son to him too. And
oh my gosh. When he breaks Wonderboy, his homemade bat, and he says to the ball boy, like, go get me another bat. And I'm like, don't get the bat you guys made together. Don't get the bat you guys made. Of course he does. Of course he does.
What was the whole point?
Of course he does. That's the whole reason this kid is in the movie, is so we can have that moment.
And Bump, when he dies, Bump also accepts that, but it's played for laughs, I think. Like he just hits a wall Right. I'm like, is this supposed to be like, this movie doesn't know
Now,
what it is.
in the book, when Bump dies, like it's really sad. It's a tragedy. He didn't do it on purpose. It's just like, didn't know his own strength kind of thing. And it's very sad. And in fact, Memo, who's really stringing Roy along to keep him from being a good player, she's doing it because she loved Bump and she hates Roy because in her mind, Roy is responsible for Bump's death. But yeah, it is kind of played for laughs.
It's bizarre.
It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say to y'all. I mean, I know, like we said, we know people love this movie and absolutely love what you love. I mean, that's,
same. Yeah, agree. Yes.
And I watched it twice. So I watched it the other night and then I watched it this morning. I'm going to just do this like first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee. And it's too long and
it is also too long. Agree. Yeah. I know. I thought the same thing. I thought like, well, maybe I'm just in a grumpy mood, maybe I'm just like, but it's that they just took such a critical point in the guy's origin story and made it so implausible that it undermines the entire movie.
Yeah. Same.
And it's too bad because if like I say, if the first time we see Robert Redford on screen is 16 years later and he's supposed to be like 33, 34, even though he's 47, like I'm totally buying it. And really I like that part of the performance is the most plausible part of the performance is when he first, I believe it then.
Yes.
But I also don't believe it because you look exactly the way you did when you were supposed to be 19. And yeah. So I'm going to say book.
I'm going to say book too, though the book is bizarre. I don't know if I'll read it again.
Yeah.
It's available on the Libby app. You can also...
It's easy to find.
Very easy to find. The audiobook, it's like I said, it's got a very weird downer of an ending, but it was much more interesting and complex.
Much more interesting. The characters were more interesting. He's not like the squeaky clean Wonderboy that he is in this movie. That is and obviously very thick, because how do you not know that that's your son she's talking about? She told you she didn't get married. She told you how old her son is. She told you he loves baseball, and you were not clued in at all at any point.
It's just... I'll never get over that. Would you like coffee? Oh, I could brew you some tea. Do you want iced tea? I'll brew you some iced tea. How long is that going to take? Just... No, I don't have any. It's water. It's water. I mean, I'm sorry. It just was like...
It's very silly.
Especially when they call him kid.
What am I looking at?
That's just an absurd... I did like it when the Whammer says, I just love meeting the general public. He's so
really
egotistical.
good.
Yes, yeah, he was great.
I really liked him.
He's always was great. He was always believable, whatever he was doing. I mean, I like all the actors. Robert Duvall, of course, is always great.
It's a good... Yeah.
It's a great cast.
I think everybody
looks great.
Yeah.
The
Robert
settings.
Duvall, 5 years older than Robert Redford. I mean, I know this is sounding like super ageist, but...
No, but that's the story.
It's the story.
Right. He's this kind of hick that, gets his big chance at 19. He doesn't know. He's not he has no savvy. He doesn't understand, like, this woman's nuts, and don't just let her, don't go to her room or whatever.
Don't go to her room.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Take the warnings but also, like, she's always in black or they're all always in white. And it's some things are just like when they're good or when they're bad. And it's like, I don't know. But it does look great. If you love it, keep loving it. Enjoy it. God bless. It gives me the giggles. It just...
I just could not take it seriously. I really could not. I mean, even at the beginning when, like, the thing with the dad.
Mm-hmm.
you've got a gift, son.
And this score, you're right. The score is really...
It's really not helping. It's not good. The score, I mean, it in particular is it's just so, it
Schmaltzy.
really is schmaltzy, very much like it's telling you how to feel maybe 20 seconds in advance of the thing that you're supposed to be feeling about, like way in advance. So like, oh, this must be the one where he's going to actually hit it out of the park. Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Right.
So yeah, so book. So book.
This wasn't, but it was fun to do a dive into this. It was fun to kind of I enjoyed it. I did have fun, even though I don't love the movie.
I don't love this movie. Okay, so we're gonna launch Mysteries in May. Next month is next week is already going to be May.
I cannot believe that half this year is almost over.
So we thought, what better way to kick off our very, very first Mysteries in May than with a classic from the best-selling writer. Wait, she's the best-selling writer after Shakespeare? Is that what it is?
She might even be more than Shakespeare, but she's like, yes, she has sold so many books. It's Agatha Christie and Death on the Nile. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, we did Murder on the Orient Express some time ago, and I feel like there was maybe another Agatha Christie that we did. But anyway, I can't wait to talk about Agatha Christie. I have never seen we're going to do the Kenneth Branagh one, which I have never seen. Did you see it yet?
Yes, I saw it when
you did. Okay,
yeah. But I'll see it again.
Okay, I have yet to see it. I've only seen the earlier adaptations from the David Suchet one. I think and anyway, we'll talk about those. But we are going to be focusing on the most recent one, the Kenneth Branagh one. So Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile, but we do need suggestions for the rest of the month, please. So if you have those suggestions, be sure and join our Facebook group, so you all can join in on the conversation and decide what you think we should do next. And we do actually have some good
suggestions,
some good mysteries for suggestions for mysteries, but we're always looking for more. And Margot, where can they find you online?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick. That's my site, and that's where I am on Threads and Instagram. And then I'm at Brooklyn Margot for TikTok. I do have a couple of clips there. And on Twitter, I'm at Brooklyn Margot. Where can they find you?
You can find me online at coloniabook.com, and all my social media callouts are at She's Nacho Mama.
All right, everybody. So once again, please send us your suggestions. Our email, once again, is bookversusmoviepodcast@gmail.com. All right, we'll be back soon with Agatha Christie. Thank you so much for listening to the Book versus Movie podcast. We're a part of the Frolic Podcast Network. You could find more podcasts you will love at frolic.media/podcasts. You could find us on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram at Book versus a Movie. Just spelled it all out. We have a Patreon page. Type in there Book vs Movie Podcast, where you can find